And right there, House Intel Committee Chair Adam Schiff ramping up his impeachment inquiry by issuing a new set of rules.
In a letter to the Republican minority, Schiff details a list of questions that GOP witnesses must answer in order to be considered relevant to impeachment hearings. But is this another way to restrict Republicans in this impeachment process?
Looks like it to us. What's it look like to Senate Intel Committee member and Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton, who joins us right now from D.C. Senator, good morning to you.
Morning, Steve. Morning, Pete. Morning, Ainsley.
It sounds like Adam Schiff is just trying to tie the hands of the Republicans so that they can only ask a certain number of witnesses to come up and sit before the committee.
Yeah, Steve, it looks like Shifty Adam Schiff has gone from having a star chamber or kangaroo court in secret over the last month to having public show trials next week. These questions basically say that the Republicans can only have witnesses if they will play into his storyline, nothing that would actually portray what truly happened, certainly nothing that would allow the calling of what may be the most important witnesses in this matter, Hunter Biden, to explain what he was doing for a Ukrainian oligarch under investigation for $50,000 to $80,000 a month, or for that matter, Joe Biden, to explain why he didn't recuse himself from all matters related to Ukraine, given this obvious conflict of interest with his son.
Senator, do you think that's what it's all about? Someone like Hunter Biden not being called to the stand? Or is there more? Protecting him, yeah.
I think Shifty Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi are going the extra mile to protect Joe Biden. You know, Nancy Pelosi has started to intimate that she's worried that radical left-wingers like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren may win the presidential nomination. That leaves all the chips left on Joe Biden and his faltering campaign. I can't imagine that she wants to see Joe Biden or Hunter Biden called to account for this obvious conflict of interest during the Obama era.
Well, you know, in reading the three questions, Senator, maybe you wouldn't be able to call Joe Biden or Hunter Biden, but they would be able to call the whistleblower. And I know that some Republicans have wanted to hear from the whistleblower anyway. Any possibility that Adam Schiff would say, you know what, you're right, that person does qualify under my rules?
Would Adam Schiff say that? No, of course not, Steve. Even if he did qualify under those rules as written. Look, our whistleblower protection statutes are designed to protect government employees from retaliation at work for reporting misconduct in their agency or their department. They are not allowed. They're not there to allow you to launch impeachment proceedings against the President of the United States while colluding with Democratic operatives in Congress and throughout the government.
Wow. Doesn't feel like that since it's gone public, it's gotten any better, the process they're setting over there. Senator Tom Cotton, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
All right. Meanwhile, President Trump set to launch a new campaign initiative today focusing on black voters. Will his promises made, promises kept slogan get new supporters on board?
A member of that brand new coalition joins us live coming up next.
Numbers for this Friday. First number is 96. That's how many Sears and Kmart stores will close starting next month. Their parent company announcing downsizing after buying the brands out of bankruptcy earlier this year. Only 182 stores will remain open in the United States. Next, 502. That's how many books former NBC analyst Mark Halperin has sold. How to Beat Trump, America's top political strategist, on what it will take, was released on October 29th. The publisher blames sluggish sales on the, quote, cancel culture. Halperin was fired from NBC. And finally, 3. That's how many toys are being inducted into the National Toy Hall of Fame. Matchbook cars, coloring books, and Magic, the Gathering cards, all make the cut.
And they won't be in the Sears catalog. We miss it. President Trump is set to depart the White House this morning, heading to Atlanta, where he'll launch a new campaign outreach initiative focusing on black voters. And despite winning only 8% of the black vote back in 2016, the campaign believes that President Trump's performance in office will inspire black voters to choose him in 2020. Joining us now to discuss is a board member of the new Black Voices for Trump coalition, David Harris, Jr. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning, Ainsley. How are you this morning?
I'm great, thank you. So you're launching this initiative in Atlanta today. Tell me why you wanted to be a board member.
Well, I'm not supposed to announce exactly what my role is at this time yet because the launch hasn't happened yet, but I'm excited to be a part of this coalition. I'm excited because what the president has done and is doing for our country, for the black community, is so underrated. It gets downplayed at every turn by the liberal media. They don't want to focus on any of his successes. Even on my ride into the studio this morning, a black gentleman was my driver, and I asked him if he knew about some of the amazing things that the president has done, like the $360 million that he signed into law for HBCUs, which was a 14% increase over anything in history. He had no idea. I talked about black unemployment. Had he known that black unemployment hit a historic low in our country last year? It's never been below 7% in our country, and underneath Donald Trump's administration, it's been under 7% for 17 consecutive months, currently at 5.9%. Most black Americans don't know because the liberal media doesn't want them to hear, and we are dedicated to bring the truth to the people in a very strategic way with digital media and social media, something that's never been done before. It's truly unprecedented what's taking place today.
How do you plan on getting that message out then if the liberal media won't have you on?
Well, we've got very strategic ways that we are going to be reaching the people all across the country. We are comprised of law enforcement officers, healthcare professionals, business owners, activists, all members of the black community that have been successful in helping their communities get better for a better and brighter future generations to come. So we're going to be really strategic about it.
The president, I know he touts his economy at all the rallies. In January 2017, right before he was elected, the unemployment rate in the black community was 7.7. Now it's 5.4. We did want to ask you also about Kanye West, because he was here in New York. He was on stage and he made this surprise appearance, and he said he's going to run for president in 2024. What's your reaction?
You know, I just absolutely love everything I'm seeing from Kanye. I truly believe that he's had a Saul to Paul moment for those that know the Bible. I'm a man of faith myself. I had one of those encounters that literally changed me from night to day overnight, and people saw the difference. People are seeing that difference in Kanye. I believe there's a spiritual awakening that is taking place. His last event, 6,000 people, 1,000 gave their lives to Jesus. I think that's absolutely amazing. And I think that he's what we need as a country, the black community. You know what? I appreciate what Kanye's doing and what I believe God is doing through Kanye, so I'm excited to see what's in store for him.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, the Saul to Paul moment. Saul was a murderer, murdered Christians, lots of Christians, and then became so influential in the Bible and in Jesus' life. So thank you so much for joining us. I wish you all the best. Keep us posted on how things work.
Absolutely will do. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Good luck today. All right, Jeff Sessions is officially running for his old Senate seat, and he hopes President Trump will support him. Will that happen? Ed Henry is here to weigh in. Coming up next.
I did the thing I had to do under the rules of the Department of Justice. The senior advisors told me that this is what the rules require, the regulations required, and I read them, and I don't think there was any out for me. But I know how painful it was for the president. The whole thing was very painful for him, and he saw this as a pivotal moment, but painful and as prolonged as it was, it did clear him of Russian collusion, and I'm certainly glad that finally happened.
Okay, the news is, as of last night on Tucker Carlson, that man, former Attorney General, former Alabama Senator, wants his old job back. Ed Henry joins us right now. Ed,
good morning.
You know, the president was really mad at him.
He was.
And we know that apparently Mitch McConnell and the president both said to him, don't do it.
Right.
Now he's going to do it.
But now, if he can win, the president is probably,
there are 5 Republicans in the primary.
Right, there's a big primary. It's going to be hard for him to make it. But a lot of people in the Trump camp think, oh, he wasn't a Trump supporter. I got a story for you. He actually was Trump before there was Trump in terms of being for cracking down on illegal immigration and all these populist issues. I covered President Obama, and when he got reelected, a lot of Republicans thought Mitt Romney was going to win in 2012. He didn't. After that election, I got a call from a Republican senator, Jeff Sessions, said he wanted to have breakfast with me in Washington. Sit down, didn't know what it was about. He said, Ed, we need, he felt like he and his colleagues needed to find a new sort of bright light in the party who was going to take it back for the Republicans. He started sketching out, focus on populist issues, focused on cracking down on illegal immigration. And he sketched out for me, he said, Ed, you know, this is Jeff Sessions, when I knew that Romney was going to lose, he said that story about all those houses he had, and I said, yeah, was that the turning point? And he said, no. Sessions said, when I saw that he had an elevator for his cars in one of those homes, he said, there's not a lot of people in Alabama who have an elevator for their car. Here's my point. At that breakfast, it was me, Senator Sessions, and his staffer, Stephen Miller. Where do you know him?
Yeah.
He's now one of President Trump's right arms in the White House.
But
so
Ed,
people forget that Jeff Sessions was conservative before it was cool.
But here's the thing. That is light years before he had to recuse himself, and then that recusal subjected the president to what he calls
It was a bad moment, and it was a rupture.
And the president does not like him for that.
Right. But if he wins, he'll be one of the president's biggest supporters in the Senate, is my point.
Is this about legacy, though? His reputation is different now. When he went into the White House, it was
Correct.
one way. Now, because
I
of the
covered the
refusal.
Senate for a long, long time, and Jeff Sessions, when they tallied up the votes at the end of every session, was the second or third most conservative senator every time. He had the sterling reputation on the right. It was marred by his fights with President Trump. I think he wants to rewrite what the ending on his political career is.
But the problem is the president has been very vocal over the last number of years about Jeff Sessions, and whoever he is running against is simply going to get the videotape recorder out and snip up where the president says Jeff Sessions is an embarrassment. He does not have a clue, and that will be very damaging.
It's going to be a problem for him. On the other hand, Jeff Sessions can find some videotape from when I was covering him in the Senate, when, like I mentioned, where he was for the wall before a whole bunch of other people were.
It just depends on who runs against him. If another young Republican runs against him that's very well liked in that state, then maybe.
Here's the bottom line. The president would rather even Jeff Sessions, who he doesn't like, than
Exactly.
Doug Jones, the Democrat, who took that seat. That's important for this president, especially if he gets reelected and wants his agenda.
Of course.
We're going to be on this weekend together,
Yes,
by the
we
way.
are. But before we get to that, let's stay in the Senate for a second. There was a meeting between the president and Mitch McConnell about an impeachment plan. What do you know about that?
Well, look, I spoke to one of the president's advisors who gave me some insight that he hadn't heard before, that Mitch McConnell and the president have spoken privately about how a Senate impeachment trial may work out. And the bottom line is that Mitch McConnell said, Mr. President, I don't think the votes are going to be there to remove you from office. You got to do two things, though. One, you got to work with some of these senators, like Elisa Murkowski. And you see McConnell and the president there a couple of days ago. Got to work with Elisa Murkowski, who's a swing voter, is not always there for the president. Work with her on energy and other things that have nothing to do with Ukraine. Focus on substance, number one. And number two, I'm told that McConnell told the president, do not attack individual senators like you did with Romney. They're going to be jurors. And they may say things publicly about the Ukraine call that you don't like, Mr. President. But McConnell said, take it a little bit. Okay? And we'll see whether the president can do that. Because in the end, McConnell's point was, they may want to let some steam out and say, I don't like all of this, and show that they're being fair and partial. But in the end, they're not going to vote to remove you. So that's the bottom line, is that McConnell has told the president, I'm told privately, you can survive a trial. But you got to do it that way, and you got to let this play out.
It's hard to give the president advice like that because he's
see
the
if he takes it.
commander-in-chief.
He didn't take it when it comes to Mitt Romney. And when Romney came after him on Ukraine, he fired back.
Well, you might understand why.
All right.
There's some history to that.
So you two are going to be here on the couch tomorrow,
Yes.
and then
6 to 10 a.m.
you've got some other.
Starting on Saturday, I'm going to have a show noon Eastern to 1. Saturday and Sunday. We're doing this, starting it now, going right up until next year's election. There's a lot of news to cover, a lot of politics. In fact, we are going to have a supporter of the president who is going to announce on our show that she is getting in to a big race for Congress, taking on a big
You're a
race
little
for
too
Congress.
cryptic. You got to fill in some more
It's
details.
going to be a little bit of news. You have to watch Saturday at noon, and Pete did a great job on the Patriot Awards, so I got him a little present. Yeah, there's a Fox fan named Rebecca Backer who sent me a tie for the 4th of July, and you liked it so much, I asked her to paint one for you.
Really? She painted one for me, too?
Because the Patriot Awards, you hosted, you did a great job on Fox
very
Nation.
much.
But she also sent me a surprise for Ainsley. She painted this for Ainsley. It was Hayden's birthday this week.
Yes, it was.
Check
That's
this
so
out.
sweet.
You're not going to believe
it. What did she make?
She painted this bag for you.
Look at that.
Word, that is so beautiful. Does she know that? Okay, my grandfather, when he was an avid golfer, and he saw monarch butterflies on the golf course all the time, and he said, every time you see a monarch butterfly, I want you to think of me. So we've all seen them at our weddings.
I think she's
That
read
is
your
amazing.
book.
She probably read
Yeah, I
your book,
wonder
and
if
there's a
she's-
Bible verse over here,
Look at
and she
beautiful
wanted that for
Hayden.
Hayden's birthday. So I think it's RB
And,
rendition.
no,
She
this
sent
is
it for
from
you.
a picture we took. We went to an animal farm here, and she was holding the ferrets or whatever they were. And so I've posted that picture on social media.
Well, I hope
What
Pete
did
wears
she
the
write
tie.
there?
Love it.
Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here, ever this day be at my side to light and guard, to rule and guide.
The
Hayden,
guardian
that's
angel.
So
Well, happy
sweet.
birthday, Hayden. Happy birthday,
Yeah, let me
Hayden.
see the top.
And I have an aggressive looking ball.
That's
I think if anybody could pull it off, it's an Army veteran
painted
like
that?
Pete
We might have to try that tomorrow.
for Veterans Day.
That's
for the
wonderful.
weekend.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Well,
by the way.
Steve, I'll
So you're
share
gonna
my
be 4
badge.
hours.
Saturday and Sunday at noon after Fox.
He's not
News.
leaving us on the
Share
weekend
the tie
either.
with Steve, too. Can he wear it,
Steve, yeah.
son?
Here you go.
Oh, I forgot to get Steve a
You can-
present. I'm sorry.
We can
But
rotate.
you know what?
I'll see you next week.
I'll go get you a present, then I'll get Jillian a present because I know she's got some headlines.
Because she's got the news. Hey,
What is her name? We need to thank her. Jillian, isn't this
It's
beautiful?
beautiful.
Rebecca Backer.
There you
I
go.
love it.
That's
Now you
awesome.
know. Happy
Well, you
birthday,
guys
Hayden.
Thank you.
Admire that, because that is definitely something to be admired. A piece of art there. Let's get you caught up on your stories that we're following, including this. A California sheriff blames the governor's policies for a deputy's killing. 2 illegal immigrants are charged in the death of Deputy Brian Ishmael, who was shot while investigating a marijuana theft. The sheriff says Gavin Newsom's sanctuary and marijuana policies contributed to the tragedy.
If you allow criminally minded illegal aliens to infiltrate our communities with more protections than our average citizens, they will take advantage of that and victimize our communities.
He's also slamming Newsom for missing the deputy's funeral. How about this story? This is an interesting one. A judge rejects a convicted killer's appeal who argued that he completed his life sentence when he momentarily died. Benjamin Schreiber was rushed to the hospital after developing septic poisoning at an Iowa prison in 2015. Doctors had to perform life-saving surgery to revive him. Schreiber filed an appeal in 2018 saying he was sentenced to life behind bars, but, quote, not to life plus 1 day. The court dismissed his request. Tell us what you think about that. We told you about New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's plan to give accused criminals movie passes and Mets tickets just to show up in court. Well, his plan reportedly includes much more than that. According to the New York Post, de Blasio also wanted to give cell phones and Metro cards away. They could also get gift cards to places like Applebee's and Dunkin' Donuts. A teacher is apologizing for a controversial homework assignment. The Pennsylvania educator writing, quote, President Trump is trying to take control of the United States. There are fights in the streets. You have to pretend that you are a refugee being forced to leave your home, never to return. She also told students to pack a bag. The district superintendent says the teacher has realized it was a, quote, huge error, and they have called parents to apologize. Let's look at your headlines. I'll send it back to you.
That is a crazy story.
Which, I mean, a lot of them are crazy. Which one are you talking
No, the
about?
last one. I was talking about the last one.
The teacher, yeah.
The teacher called every parent individually to say that was a bad idea.
The bigger problem was that teacher thought it was a good idea in the first place. Oh, boy. Thank you.
All right, out on the streets of New York City, and Janice has got some folks where they're huddling because it's chilly.
It is a little chilly. Are you guys cold? But warm hearts, right? Okay, over here, right over here. Hi, where are you from?
Pennsylvania.
What's your name? Oh, yeah, it says here.
Yeah.
Thank you
Here
so
in
much for coming.
Pennsylvania.
Your name?
Beaufort, South Carolina, Diana and Blake.
And it's your anniversary?
Yes,
What's the
22nd.
secret?
Understanding, of course.
Understanding, of course. I like it. Are you listening, Sean? Let's take a look at the maps, and I will show you how cold it is. There's your forecast today. I just want to show you what's going to happen over the next couple of days into Saturday and Sunday and Monday and Tuesday. So that's cold air that's going to sink southward across the Mississippi and the Tennessee River Valley. And any moisture that gets in there could mean some snow in the forecast. So just keep that in mind, and we'll certainly keep you up to date. Otherwise, not too much going on across the country, which we'll take. All right, say hi to Pete and Ainsley and Steve, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Fox and Friends.
There you go. All right. Thanks for stopping by.
Yes, for sure. Always. Come by. 48th and 6th Avenue.
Crossroads of the world.
That's right. Forget the SAT and ACT. The University of California may end admissions testing altogether, because they say it discriminates against minorities.
Well, Michael Loftus lives in California, and he probably thinks this is...
To this, standardized testing could soon be a thing of the past for admissions at the University of California.
The school that has multiple campuses throughout the state is facing pressure from groups who call the test discriminatory. But is ignoring test scores really the right move?
Let's talk to comedian and founder of the now world-famous Loftus Party, Michael Loftus, live in New York. So, Michael,
yeah,
they say that, you know what, you know, it's discriminatory. Let's get rid of it. It's going to make life easier for a lot of students.
How is knowledge discriminatory? That's what I don't understand about this whole story. You either know things or you don't. There's no discrimination in there. It's not like 2 + 2 = 5. Oh, how does it? I don't see how this affects
other aspects of this story on this show where, you know, math is now deemed racist or certain ways that you I mean, where does it end?
See, that just makes my head hurt. I don't see how math can be racist at all. Like, that's the great thing. I grew up watching Star Trek. It's just like, you know, it's the science of numbers. That's how they're trying to communicate. I don't see this at all. And I'm going to be mad because I studied.
Right?
I studied really hard to do lousy on the SATs. Right? I was scrambling to break.
You were like his
Well, okay, well, if that's true.
1,500 score on your
No.
SAT? No?
No.
No,
See, and here's how bad it is. I don't even
14.
know if that's a good score.
Okay, but hold on. But that's the student that might benefit from this. The student who's not a good test taker. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. If you're not a good test taker, but you're really a good student, and you study, and you do your homework, and you do well on the test, and you have A's and B's, then you get accepted to the university despite...
That's how it should be.
Well,
I mean, if you do well on the
test.
listen, this whole I don't do well on tests, I wish I would have known that was an excuse. I really wish I would have known. I could have gone to my old man when I was doing horrible. Like, I guess I don't do well on tests.
What if
it's the system, Dad.
What if you're raising a child that you know is not going to do well on the ACT or the SAT? They struggle with that. But you can help them with their homework. You can help them study for the test and get good grades.
How many exceptions do we have to make?
I know.
Like, I can't go to work a week. You can't show up at Fox and go, I guess I just don't do well at work. Well, what are you going to do? If you can change the building and the whole pay structure.
And not everybody has to go to college. I mean, we've had Mike Rowe on this program a million times. There are great jobs that nobody's doing in this country, and so we have to bring, find other ways to do that.
Yeah.
There's an op-ed regarding this in the Wall Street Journal. They wrote, if they scrape testing, California policymakers will effectively be announcing that instead of addressing the failures that have left so many students with diminished opportunity, they chose to look away.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the school systems in California are horrible. I mean, they're horrible. The kids that are coming out of the L.A. unified whatever school system, they're not crushing it.
The public schools?
Oh, yeah. It's their test scores are not good at all. So I bet they do. They're now going to select kids for college by eeny, meeny, miny,
You know who will benefit from this? All those celebrities that paid people to change their SAT scores.
How mad is Lori Loughlin this morning? I spent money on what? And it doesn't matter.
But I mean, it's ultimately, if you're not teaching kids in those public schools, then you just get rid of the standards and then everything's okay.
Yeah, everything's okay, and then they should just lower the standards for college, and then we'll just be a nation of just full-on morons. Just a bunch of full-on idiots.
Ainsley, he's going to steal your joke.
I'm telling that one tonight. How mad is Lori Loughlin?
We reached out to the University of California for a statement. We have not heard back yet, but it is 3 hours
I did think about when I thought about that question. I thought I should have told him that in the commercial break. He could have used it.
All right, Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great morning.
All right. Well, there's stories from the battlefield that you may have read about, but Fox Nation is taking you to the front lines with a brand new show. A look at real Marines coming up next.
We never knew where the ambush was going to come from. You're walking down a city, it could come from any window. The whole thing would be over in 3 minutes, but it was incredibly violent. It was sort of like a fist fight in a phone booth. You never knew where the ambush was going to come from. You're walking down a city, it could come from any window. And they could hit you from the window with a small arms fire, an RPG, an IED in the trash, and then they would disappear out of the back of that building. The whole thing would be over in 3 minutes, but it was incredibly violent and there wasn't a lot you could do about it.
There's stories from the battlefield that you have read about, and now Fox Nation is taking you to the front lines with the American heroes who were there in the new show called Real Marines.
Joining us now is the host of Real Marines, Fox News senior correspondent Rick Leventhal. Rick, thanks for being here.
Amazing to be called a host of something. Thank you very much, guys.
But it's a cool concept. You're taking individual stories, going in depth with those Marines and telling them the way they deserve to be.
Yeah, we wanted to give them a chance to talk about what they experienced when they were overseas in battle. And we have met and talked to a number of very heroic people who spent months and months, if not more than a year, overseas on multiple occasions in some of the most dangerous places on Earth. And the first piece that we did was with General Roger Turner, who's the commanding general of 29 Palms in California, where they train all these Marines for combat overseas, and he talked a lot about what they trained for, but he was there. He was in Helmand Province in 2004 to 2006. I'm sorry, in Iraq, in Ramadi and Fallujah in 2004 to 2006, and then in Helmand Province after that. And I talked to him about some of the most difficult challenges they faced, and here's what he told me.
You guys were tested. I wonder how that affected you.
The thing that kind of kept you going there was the amazing cohesion. There was literally no other place they would have rather been. In that unit, at that time, at that place, we believed in the mission and we believed in each other. So it was an amazing experience, even though there was hard times when we suffered losses and casualties.
That's great.
Yeah, he supervises a lot of the training that these Marines go through, and we talk about that as well in that particular piece. But we also interviewed Captain John Branson, who was also in Ramadi in 2003 and also went to Helmand Province, and he was fascinating when he talked about the poppy industry and how that funds the Taliban and fuels the fight, but how they couldn't eliminate all the poppies because they can't destroy the local economy.
Well, it looks terrific. The only place to see it is on Fox Nation. And by the way, for every new subscription to Fox Nation through Veterans Day, Monday, we will donate $5 to Folds of Honor. Rick, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Rick.
so much. Thanks for reminding us of what our soldiers go through on a daily basis.
That's right.
My pleasure.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk to Geraldo Rivera about Michael Bloomberg. He wants to be president.
So does Kanye.